Now, I'm thrilled to have my next guest on the Rita Panahi show every week for another year. He is one of the finest thinkers of his generation, the author of international bestsellers, including The Madness of Crowds, The Strange Death of Europe, and The War on the West. Douglas Murray, welcome back. We've got plenty to discuss. Let's start in the US. We're a week away from the second Trump term. What do you see as the greatest priority of the president-elect? He has quite a mess to clean up.
He does. I mean, I think the priorities are obviously going to be what he said on the campaign trail. The priorities have to be securing the southern border, securing the borders of the United States of America, preventing the illegal migration that's gone on so extraordinarily in recent years. Secondly, of course, there'll be the whole issue of the economy, of rebuilding the American economy. And I suppose the third thing, and as you say, it's a pretty big in tray that he's got, is going to be world affairs. There's a lot that's gone on in the world in the last 4 years that Trump said would not have gone on if he'd been in the White House. Now he's going to be back in the White House, and it's his chance to show the difference between Trump and Biden.
Now, in many ways, California serves as a warning to much of the US of what can happen when the Democrats enjoy one-party rule, when they can run amok. It is the bluest of blue states and has embraced just about every far-left policy, including DEI madness, even in the fire department. Let's have a listen here to the Los Angeles Fire Department Assistant Chief, Kristen Larson, talking about the importance of diversity, equity and inclusion.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
He got himself in the wrong place. That would be funny, Douglas, if it was a Babylon Bee sketch, but sadly it's all too real.
Absolutely, and that's including at the very top of the fire department in LA, at the head of the LA Fire Department. If you even now look at the website that she has, her bio, it's all about the fact that she's a diverse woman, that she's a proud member of the LGBTQIA+ community, and that her priority is diversity. The numbskull we just heard from there, also in the fire department, I mean, I hope very much that LA voters and others take note of this. In the end, these people who talked the diversity talk didn't know what they were doing in the real world. Actually, it's not about somebody who looks like you coming to your house. It's about somebody coming to your house. It's about somebody saving your house from burning down. I spoke to residents of LA earlier this week whose home and all their belongings had been burnt to nothing and has had their whole neighborhood. And they said to me, not one fire truck showed up, not one, Rita. Wow. Now, if I was a resident there and I'd heard this guff for years about how important it is that a diverse woman of color should come and how empowering it is that a lesbian is head of a... No, you just want competent fire authorities. And that is exactly what LA has not had. And we'll see if the appropriate lessons are learned from that or not. But this goes right up to the top. It's Governor Newsom who is doing this nonsense. It's the local mayor who is doing this nonsense, the heads of the fire service who are doing this nonsense. And in the end, somebody has to be responsible for the fact that there was no water. Somebody has to be responsible for the fact that there was no water coming out of the fire hydrants. Somebody has to be responsible for all this. And Governor Newsom has been standing intermittently, as we can see there, in front of these fires, in front of these burned out buildings, talking about how we can all pull together and go forward and all of the usual inane nonsense. And the whole neighborhood's burned down and is still burning. I hope very much the residents who suffered from this realize that this stuff is not a joke, and things were always too late for this nonsense, and they're certainly too late for it now.
Now, for many years under the Biden administration, we've seen white supremacy spoken of as the greatest threat facing America.
To single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
And that divorce from reality worldview has, for many, many years, infected institutions like the Department of Justice, the FBI. How do you see that changing under Trump, particularly after the shock of the New Orleans terror attack on New Year's Day?
Well, you know, a counterterrorism and counter-extremism policy should be one of the most evidence-based policies in government. It should not be about pushing an ideology. It shouldn't be standing in front of a particular demographic and an electorate and saying, I've decided that X is the biggest threat. It should be based on what the biggest threats are. And, you know, this whole thing of, you know, that people like Biden for years have known that they'd get a sort of Democrat round of applause if they started talking about being against white supremacy. I mean, like, white supremacy is this thing where, like, everyone's agreed that they don't want it or like it. And nobody in the mainstream in politics or anything like that is pushing for the KKK to have a resurgence. When there is the occasional wacko white supremacist, everybody's joined in condemnation of them. But what's different, of course, is that when it's somebody who's an Islamist, as we had a number of attacks in America and Europe over Christmas carried out by people who appear to be driven by Islamic extremism, oh, well, those same people stop being evidence-based. In fact, they run away from evidence. They don't want to talk about that. Or we always get the thing of, this isn't the time to talk about it, and further down the line also isn't the time to talk about it. And actually, it turns out there's no time to talk about it. And I would just hope that there would be a realistic weighing up of the threats to the American homeland under the new administration, and weighing up those threats wherever they come from, and dealing with them wherever they come from. But we'll see. I mean, there's one of the things is that residues of administrations can last an awfully long time, particularly if they're of the left. They remain effectively in the trees and forests left behind by the retreating administration. And there will be whole structures in CIA, FBI, DHS, and others who will still be following the Democrat lead on this, even once the Republicans are back in. And that's one to really look out for, because it's one thing to have the policy. It's another thing to actually have departments and institutions of government that actually see it through.
And that, of course, happened during Trump's first term. So I think he's hopefully learned from that, and we're going to go scorched earth from day one. And if Kash Patel is there heading the FBI, I think you're going to see a little bit of that.